Any guesses what color the gas is? It's not clear. It's not even yellow. It's more like a diarrhea brown. What's up? Welcome to a new show, which we're gonna call Car Cane Rehab. And it's kind of a new show based on some other episodes that we did back before the reboot. And what that was the Scotto's rehab. And the whole concept here is I've got a lot of cars that I have neglected over the past, I don't know, long time, and getting back to work on them. Okay, so let's play a little catch up for everybody. So the show that came before this was Vinny and Hurt ambushed myself and Ashley, which is my wife, and basically called us out in what they were considering like an intervention.
Scotto needs a reminder because this is a problem.
For a little overview.
944.
Doesn't run. No, doesn't operate.
No. Yes.
Yes.
Really well. Actually.
Yes, runs great. There's an engine.
Nope.
That don't run though. Definitely not.
Super cheap.
Repeat after me. Hi. My name is Brian. I have a car cane problem.
Hi, my name is Brian. I have a car cane. The idea being that we have got too many project cars, and somewhere in the past 2 years we kind of stopped working on them and we've just let them sit. It's been busy. I run this company called Hoonigan. It's been a lot. I've also been working on Gymkhana 10 and a bunch of other things. So they sort of called us out because they wanted to see us finish our cars. So I started to get back to work on this thing, which is my Audi Coupe Quattro. It's a car I bought about 14 years ago, and I haven't worked on it since, I haven't worked on it in a decade. Well, I hadn't worked on it in a decade. And then a few months back, I got back to working on it. Really just took a lot of time to go through and figure out what was needed, what were the next steps. It's sort of a leftover project. I wanna get it running, I wanna get it back on the road, I wanna drive it, I wanna say it runs, you know, because is it Scotto's, does it run? And get it back up. Once it's running, drive it, maybe even take it, do a track day, even though it's only a whopping 160 some odd horsepower. Get it out there, have fun with it. Maybe spend a month or two driving it, dialing in suspension and stuff while I build an engine for it on the stand. And in the meantime, while that's running, rehab will get into me getting the Nova back on the road. And that's the goal for rehab this year, is how many cars can I get back on the road in 2018? So now I have this show to force me to get things out of the way and get things done. Let's see if that works. Yeah, so I probably should stop talking to you and start working on this. I think like one thing a lot of people hit me up is like, why do I have all these cars that don't run? And the fact is that just work a lot, don't have a lot of time, and I like working on my own stuff, so that makes it even more difficult because I can't just pass it off to someone else to do. I actually want to do it all myself. So phase one is just to get this car running. I've already ran through kind of a bunch of stuff that I had half done before I stopped working on it. Brakes, suspension, all that. I still need to get rear brakes done. I actually ordered some parts and they came in, which is some Porsche Cayenne rear calipers and some adapters from our friends at AK Motorsport. Problem is, I think they sent me the wrong adapters because these look way bigger than this. So yeah, we've got these that they sent me, which was kind of a nice little bonus in the package. I ordered these and they sent me these over, which are the gearbox mounts, and their stuff's so nice it makes me want to change all my gearbox mounts to this. So the goal for today, which I actually have written down too. Let me go in here real quick. So here we go. The Audi, obviously in the end we want to make this into some kind of hill climb racer. I've always loved hill climb, whether it's Pikes Peak or smaller events. It's just kind of fun. It's like tarmac rally, just shorter. First thing up, which we already did, was empty the car, organize the parts, make a plan. That might seem like really easy, but when you haven't worked on the car in 10 years, you forget a lot of what you've already done, what you've already bought, the problems you've already encountered. So there's been a lot of figuring that out. Then nut and bolt the previous work. Half of it was not even tightened. order parts that are needed. Some of those are there. Alignment, sort brakes. Yeah, I'm gonna skip on that today because, as I said, those parts aren't exactly what I need. And start engine, which is what we're gonna focus on today. All right, so I made a list of what we're gonna do today. First up, we're gonna look through fluids. I think I did the oil on this before I put it away 10 years ago. And it actually looks like pretty good because it's probably brand new oil, but it's actually not brand new because it's been sitting there for 10 years, which means it might have fallen apart a little bit. Oil tends to do that over time. So I'm gonna change that over. And then, I don't know if I can find the damn hole for this to go back into. Coolant. I can make a bet right now that this is probably empty. Yeah. That's either because it's just all evaporated in 10 years or it's just leaked out from random hoses. I'm sure there's still a bit left in the radiator. But I'm gonna drain it anyway, drain all the coolant. I'm sure anything that's in there is just not that good anymore. Oh yeah, gas. After 10 years, it's probably not even flammable anymore. So it's just like a thing of jelly in the tank. Luckily, I think I already drained it before I put the car away. I have slight memory of doing that, but as I get older, I forget things. So we'll see, but I'll siphon everything out, whatever's left in here, and put some fresh gas in. So let's start with those, and then we'll get into the next parts. Oil looks pretty new, although it does look really dark. It doesn't look like oil that's been in a motor for 3,000 miles. It looks like oil that's been in a motor for 10 years, so change that. I got another man filter. Man filters are actually the filters that Volkswagen Audi uses, so typically tend to trust them. They're not super expensive, and they're cheaper than buying them from the dealership, and it's the exact same thing. So I'll put a new one in here. But first, let's go find some oil. I'm not super concerned about what oil I'm putting in here right now because I plan on seafoaming the car once it's running just to kind of clear everything out of it. And when I do that, I'll change the oil. So I'm just gonna go into our random pile of oil back here and find something. Yeah, 1030, sure, that sounds great. This is one of those things I've always been told to do, which is to take a finger's worth of oil and put it around here to make a better seal. I don't really think that really matters considering that there's a shit ton of oil coming out of this, but let's do it. Hand tight. All right, we'll lower it, put some more oil in. I think while it's up, I may actually just drop the coolant. I don't plan on doing a full coolant flush because it's actually a lot easier to do a coolant flush while the motor's running because I can get the car up to temperature, get everything hot, which helps it release it, and then I can actually run it through the thermostat and use the water pump to kind of cycle everything through. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna drain what's in there and refill it with water. Once I get it running, I'll actually just cycle the coolant through. You can see by all the black crap on my hand. This hose and most of the hoses are just completely deteriorated. So I gotta add that to my list of things to do. Probably should just redo all the hoses. It was really clear and apparent as I took everything apart that those will probably pop. So I still wanna get started. So I'm just gonna start it how it is, or try to start it how it is. Fresh oil, put some more water in, and now it's time to go drain the gasoline. So I tried to siphon gas the good old-fashioned way with a siphon pump through the filler neck, but it looks like there's an anti-siphon device set up. So I pulled out the rear panel, and I'm gonna pull the fuel pump out. And because I thought the fuel pump might have gone bad, I bought a new fuel pump. Might as well put that in anyway, right? So, figuring one of the few things that could go bad in this car that hasn't started in 10 years is probably the fuel pump. Wanted to change the fuel filter as well. So, now we're gonna do that. So I was hoping that I had drained the gasoline, but the exact opposite. I left the car with a full tank of gas. And now we're trying to siphon all that out of here. It's actually sucks because I think a lot of things got destroyed from having a full tank of gas left in there. And obviously gasoline kind of corrodes things after a while. So this stuff all looks pretty brittle and beat up. And it also has this really nasty film on it. But then even things like this is the plug that plugs into here. That is pretty much destroyed. Top of the pump is pretty corroded. I'm hoping that we can pull most of this out and clean it up, clean up the filter, and hopefully the inside of the tank isn't totally shot and I don't have to throw a new tank in here. Otherwise, I'll just put a cell in here. So this is the gas fuel sender. I should say the fuel level sender. You can see like it's got a bunch of crud on it. It's kind of wild if you actually look at the float. You can see where it was when it was above the line of gasoline, it stayed clean, and what was underneath the gasoline, it just completely corroded and covered in like this weird rusty mix of stuff. Probably should replace this too. Alright, so finally got the tank emptied, and it's not looking good in there at all. I just pulled the pump out, which looks even worse. That's nice and gunky. Sweet. Look at how much kind of rust and crap there is in there, and just gunk and jello. Word to the wise, don't leave a car for 10 years with gasoline in it. But take a look at this. This is kind of wild. Look at that. Like, what is that? I mean, I have a new pump and all that. That obviously, I'd want to rewire all that anyway. Look at that. Any guesses what color the gas is? It's not clear. It's not even yellow. It's more like a diarrhea brown. Yep, that's the gasoline that I pumped out of here. Anyway, so I guess I gotta figure out what the hell to do with that. My guess is I'm probably gonna see a little bit more of that too, like in the fuel rails. Luckily, I also already got injectors. These injectors on the 7A engine are Hitachi injectors, and they're not particularly great. So the good folks over at 034 make an adapter kit that uses a Bosch injector. They just made these nice little kind of CNC adapters. So I guess I'll switch that over too and clean out the whole fuel system while I'm at it. Tomorrow's another day. All right, so I left here last night and I pondered my 3 options on the way home. Option 1, take out the current tank that's in here, clean out all of the muck and rust that's inside of it. You do that with like muriatic acid or vinegar or one of the other over-the-counter solutions for fixing horribly rusted gas tanks. Second option would be to find another gas tank out of a Coupe Quattro. But granted, they only sold like 1,700 of these, so they're not that common. Trying to find one and get one shipped here is sort of a pain in the ass. Option 3, since this is going to be a race car anyway, just take a step ahead and put a fuel cell in it. Probably makes the most sense, but something I definitely need to get sorted out. And unfortunately, none of that's gonna happen in the next day or two, so what I'm gonna do is just rig this bad boy up with a external tank just to see if I can get it to start, and then I can start troubleshooting things from the fuel system forward, because I already know that the fuel system is fucked. This has to come out anyway, so I guess I'll start pulling the fuel cell out. Alright, the fuel tank is out. Actually came out a lot easier than I thought it would, which is nice because the rest of this project has sucked so far. In the meantime, I'm gonna just start taking care of some stuff in the front. I do have new injectors, but I may actually try to start it with the stock injectors and then kind of run what the rest of is in the fuel system into the stock injectors, then pull these out and change them over once that's a little bit more clean. I'm also going to change the spark plugs, and not that they'll probably be fine, but change the spark plugs mainly because I want to open it up anyway and I want to spray some fogging oil into the cylinders. This motor's been sitting for a really long time, so any bit of oil that was in it, that was especially in the top of the motor, has certainly drained to the bottom, even though I did fill it up the other day. I'm going to cold crank it, so I'm going to pull the plug wires out with no fuel and just crank it just to get the oil to squirt through. This system uses a crank generated oil pump, so as long as the crank's moving, it'll squirt oil through the system. So that'll be one thing to do, fog each of the cylinders just to be extra careful. So I got some fogging oil. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull out the spark plugs and I'm gonna spray a little bit of that in there. And basically what that does is it's going to just coat the inside of the piston walls because they're probably dry as a bone after 10 years of not running. And then that way, when I crank this thing after 10 years, it hopefully won't seize immediately. Because that would be really bad. That would really suck. More than everything else has sucked so far. All right, so a lot went different than I thought was gonna go working on this, trying to get this started. I thought I was going to come out here, pull some gas out, put some fresh gas in, change the spark plugs, change the fluids, check a few things over, run through that nice little checklist that I made in my notebook, and voila, the thing would crank and hopefully start up. And I didn't even get to the chance of cranking it because it's a little farther from starting than I initially thought it was going to be, mainly because the fuel that I left in the tank over the past decade has completely destroyed the fuel system, and there's just really nothing left saving. So I either have to replace everything or just build a proper race car fuel system, which is what I'm gonna do. So fuel cell, bladder, pumps, all of that, everything that needs to get done. I thought about cleaning out the tank and it's just too much work, especially considering that my end goal for this car is something that's very different than what it is today. So may as well just take that step ahead. It'll be a stock car with a pretty good fuel system in it, and we'll keep moving forward. So anyway, that's the end of Rehab 1, the first episode, season 1. I'm gonna take the next step on this, and then maybe, I don't know, why don't you tell me below what car you think I should work on after I get this running, or maybe I should just stay focused on getting this running right now. I don't know, that's part of my problem, is I kind of bounce all over the place. Plus, hopefully Ashley gets a little bit further forward on her 944. And in addition, remember, I'm gonna throw some other bits and pieces of working on this on the bonus channel. Make sure you check that out. And I don't know, if you guys all think season 2 should go to Hurt, because I don't know if you've noticed, but Hurt's got a little bit of a car game problem as well. Comment below and let Hurt know if he should get ready for 2019 Hurt hits recovery and does carcane rehab as well. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope this is enjoyable for you guys. You guys seem to like the Audi. I do too. And to be quite honest, it's you guys who really made me feel like I have to finish this car. So I enjoy internet peer pressure. Thank you very much. And yeah, enjoy. That's a fucking wrap. That's what happens when you let gasoline just eat away at your project cars.